Hello, today I would like to talk about the changes in the Ukrainian public opinion which happened after February 24th. But frankly speaking, what we are demonstrating after February 24th maybe is surprised for Putin, for the West, but sociologists, they saw these trends, and they saw these trends in recent years, during the recent decade, and actually since 1991, during the 30 years of Ukrainian independence. I mean, Ukrainians are in favor of democracy. It's a well-known fact, and it was demonstrated not only by the polls, but also by the actions of Ukrainians during two Maidans. After 2014, after the start of the Russia's war, the support for union with Russia totally collapsed. Instead, support for NATO skyrocketed. Ukrainians are proud of their citizenship. So this was proved by different polls. And now, but what happened after February 24th? What is new? These trends, they were strengthened. And what is really important, there's no much regional polarization, regional difference regarding these issues which were divisive for many years. For example, in the east of the country, in the south of the country, if Russian-speaking Kharkiv or Russian-speaking Mariupol, they were bombarded by Russians, brutally bombarded. As the inhabitants of this city, they saw what Ruski Mir was bringing to them. So definitely these trends that we have already, measured before this full-scale invasion, they intensified, and this is really important. That now Ukrainians are united more than ever. 92% of Ukrainians, according to the poll of the Democratic Initiatives Foundation, which was conducted this August, face-to-face poll, they think that Ukraine will win. And there are people who are still believing in potential compromises with Russia, for example, recognition of Crimea or part of Donbass as being occupied by Russia, but it's not more than 10%. Not more than 10%. So this is really important, that despite the war, despite all the tragedies, psychologists, they predicted that Ukrainians should be tired at some point, that they would be eager for peaceful compromises with Putin at the expense of the territorial integrity, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So maybe it is surprising again for the West, but it's not surprising for Ukrainians. We know that Ukrainians can be tough if they would like to achieve something. And in this situation, we are fighting not only for our territorial integrity, not only for independence of the country, but also for the new country, for democracy in this country. And according to our poll, 64% believes that democracy is the best form for Ukraine. Definitely, during the war, we see that about 55% of Ukrainians are in favor of strong hand. And this is understandable because we have martial law. We agreed to that. The opposition voted for that in the parliament. We understand the limitations. But still, 64% believes in democracy as the best form, and only 14% think that at some point authoritarian methods, not authoritarianism in general, but authoritarian methods, they could be better. So 64% against 14%. I believe this is a very good result even for the Western countries. And one more point which is important for us, for Ukrainians, for most of the Ukrainians, the victory means defeat of the Russian army and full territorial integrity of Ukraine. Finally, what is different compared to the peaceful period is that it's traditional for Ukrainians, the distrust towards authorities. So Ukrainians are happy to criticize any authorities. So we have a trend that after election of the new president, Ukrainians trust to this president, but in half a year they don't trust him and they think that the country is going in the wrong direction. So what's happening right now? Over 80% of Ukrainians, they are thinking that the country goes in the right direction. And this is very important because, this is a war, tragedy, a lot of problems. There are mistakes, definitely, but still, Ukrainians are quite optimistic about the future. And I believe this optimism will bring us victory. And also geopolitical changes. We have already the candidate status for the EU. Around 90% of Ukrainians now are in favor of the EU and 80% are in favor of joining NATO. So again, I would remind about this figure to our Western and international partners, because sometimes they say, oh, you need to have a compromise with Russia, forget about NATO. Ukrainians who are dying at the front line, they understand that unfortunately we will live with Russia and Russia will not escape and Russia remains aggressive. So we need guarantees of defense. NATO, Ukrainian army is the best guarantee of our security, as we say right now. But we understand that if we are in NATO, then we would be safe. So Ukrainians are tired about the talk about neutrality, non-block status. No, Ukrainians believe firmly that our future is in the EU and in the NATO. Thanks.